let's talk about energy pricing, because that is a big part of the inflation problem. New South Wales prices are going up. The default price is going to rise pretty soon. Would you intervene in the market to protect households and businesses?
Well, at the end of the day, we do need, I think all sides agree, the Commonwealth Government to come in and step in and work up a plan for energy prices in New South Wales. We've had 25% increases in the last 12 months, and some industry experts expect a 50% increase in the next 12 months. I know the Albanese government's looking at it very closely, particularly for the eastern seaboard. It's essential to keep manufacturing operating in this environment. We've had privatisation of electricity assets in New South Wales, Laura, both the generation side and the distribution. And we also know that those private companies have been charging super profits on consumers. So in addition to Ukraine and a supply crunch when it comes to energy across the world, you've got I think the monopolisation of power amongst private industry that's driven up prices even further for
sure, but you're saying the Commonwealth needs to step in. It is very much up to New South Wales as well. What the Commonwealth does doesn't matter unless New South Wales on board. So again, the question is, if you were Premier, would you be happy to intervene in the market?
Well, you're right. Obviously, the eastern seaboard energy market is complicated. It requires Commonwealth and state legislation to make reform. And if I was Premier of New South Wales, of course I'd be sitting down with the Prime Minister of Australia to work up an energy deal that would drive down the costs for consumers, because particularly in relation to domestic manufacturing, they can't cop 50% increases to energy prices. A big part of it though, sorry Laura, a big part of it has to be the story about privatisation. The government promised that energy prices in New South Wales would drop $400 a year for businesses under a privatised model. We're seeing prices rapidly escalate over the same period of time. And I think that Premier Perrottet and Minister Keane have to be held responsible for a culture of selling off monopoly assets that have driven up prices for consumers.
OK, Daniel Andrews wants a reservation, a national gas reservation. Is that something you are on board with? Have you discussed it with him?
I haven't discussed it with Premier Andrews. However, obviously we will be looking closely at, particularly in relation to gas, what the implications would mean for energy prices in New South Wales. We've seen Western Australia have a gas reservation policy. Their prices are so much lower than they are in New South Wales. It's an option for us on the table. I'm not ready to announce our energy policy today on the program, but it has to be an option. Part of the reason for that, I mean, just to break it down, part of the reason for that is Narrabri is important. It's important for manufacturing in New South Wales. Santos has said that 100% of what will be generated as a result of that new supply will go to domestic use within New South Wales. That's a good sign. But obviously everything's on the table when you've got double-digit massive increases in energy prices that are adding to the cost of living and the cost of business for hundreds of thousands of workers in Australia's largest state.
I mean, you must have been looking at the Victorian election result thinking, wow, I've got a good chance here. Is that right? No, I wasn't. I was flicking between the Socceroos and the coverage on Sky, Laura. And, are you getting ready to be Premier of New South Wales?
The first thing that went through my head is that nobody that voted on Saturday in Victoria will be voting in a couple of months' time in New South Wales.
Well, that's true.
It's a completely different group of people.
I mean, you've got to say, though, it's your election to lose now, isn't it? I mean, look at what happens overnight. Natalie Ward, not pre-selected for her seat, beaten by Mal. She's one of the most senior Liberals in New South Wales, and then that happens.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it flies in the face of the assurances from the Premier to get more women into lower house positions. But, I mean, that's a matter for them. We're hungry about the election, but we're also humble about our prospects. We haven't won an election in New South Wales for 16 years, so we've learned by a bitter experience not to put anything before the New South Wales voters. They've got to make the decision, and we've got a lot of seats to win, just to be honest about it. So we're up for the challenge, but we've got a big hill to climb.
OK, humble but hopeful. I reckon we're going to hear that line a couple more times in the next 6 months. Chris Minns, thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, Laura.